Got it.
Let me call to order this Board of Directors meeting for ONWASA. Would you please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to call on Dr. Wes Smith, Associate Pastor of Blue Creek Baptist Church, who will offer the invocation.
I want to thank you. Before we begin, if I could just thank you all for what you do. You know, we turn our water on and we just take it for granted. And I thank you so much for what you do to control our resources and so that we can enjoy them. And thank you for what you do. Let's pray together. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for our county, for the individuals that work and serve us. And I pray that you'd be with them this evening with the business that they have to conduct. I ask that you would give them wisdom and bless them for their efforts. I pray that their time and their investment in this meeting and in our county would see great fruit. And thank you so much for this time. Thank you for your love for us and what you have done. Thank you for this place and the contribution that these people make to make Onslow County a great place to live. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is an official annual meeting of the ONWASA Board of Directors. And in accordance with Article 3 of the organization bylaws, we meet to elect a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary treasurer. And I'll call on Attorney Chuck Kitchen to administer the election.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This will be an election for chairman. It will be viva voce. In other words, it's oral. You simply nominate the person. We do not need a second. It takes 5 votes to elect. If there's more than one person nominated for any position, I will call the people in the order that they were nominated for the vote. So I will open the nominations now for chairman.
I would like to nominate Mr. Director Bennett for the position of the chairman. Move the nominations be closed.
Have a motion to have a second to close the nominations.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I have Royce Bennett, Director Royce Bennett has been nominated. Do I hear those in favor indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. We have a new chairman.
Pass the gavel.
I will now open the nominations for vice chairman.
To be careful what he wishes for.
Do we have nominations for vice chairman?
I nominate Paul Connor.
Paul Connor is nominated for vice chairman. Do we have other nominations?
Move the nominations be closed.
Have a motion to close the nominations. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We have Mr. Paul Connor. All in favor of electing Mr. Connor as vice chairman indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Congratulations, Mr. Connor.
Appreciate it.
The last position we have is secretary treasurer. I will now open the floor for nominations for secretary treasurer. Do I have any nominations?
Nominate Pat Turner.
Have nomination for Pat Turner as secretary treasurer. Do I have any other nominations?
I would move the nominations be closed and the candidate elected by acclamation.
We have a motion to close the nominations and elect Pat Turner by acclamation. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign, and congratulations, Director Turner.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I will turn the floor back over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate all of you guys, your support, and looking forward to another great year for ONWASA. We have such a growing county. We have so many challenges ahead of us. Looking forward to taking the bull by the horns and getting it done for Onslow County. Let's see, I'm supposed to say to turn off your cell phones or turn them to vibrate. And individuals making presentations or public comments are asked to adjust the microphones as necessary and to speak directly into the microphone. This meeting is being recorded. So now we need a motion to approve the agenda. I believe there's an amendment.
Make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended to add item, business item C. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let's see. Now we need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Then we move on to business 3A. And the CEO going to take care of that? Who's, let's see, oh, Linda Murphy, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner. I'm Linda Murphy, and I'm with PB Mayors, and we prepared your annual audit this year. Heather. These are the minimum requirements for the basic financial statements. The first section is the management discussion and analysis, and it's a summary of your financial statements. Then there's the government-wide financial statements, which are the full accrual. And then there's the fund financial statements, which is the modified accrual, which is your budgeted statement. And then there's the notes, which are required, and they give you a summary of all the assets and liabilities of ONWASA. And then it's the required supplementary information, which is the OPEB and the Elders pension required. Okay, your financial statements are prepared under generally accepted auditing standards and governmental auditing standards. And anytime you have any questions, please speak up. There are 4 types of audit opinion. There's an adverse, and then there's the disclaimer, a qualified, and an unmodified, which is the clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance. If you were not receiving a clean opinion, we would have already met with y'all to let you know about the opinion and why we were issuing it. But ONWASA received an unmodified opinion for June 30th, 2022. Okay, I gotta look over here. That's too small for me. This is the components of your net position. Your total net position is $181,522,660. And the net investment of capital assets is capital assets less any related debt. Next is the restricted by bond order for reserve funds. After that is restricted by bond order for replacement funds. And then the unrestricted. Okay, there's deficiencies in internal control, and there's a control deficiency which is somewhat minor, and you would receive a management letter explaining about it. A significant deficiency would be not only more significant, but a larger dollar amount. And a material weakness would also be an even larger dollar amount. And if you have any significant deficiencies in material weakness, you would have to report to the LGC what your plan is to alleviate that. And we did not find any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in our audit. Okay, this is the required communication to the Board of Directors. Y'all should have all received a copy of this. Okay, and our responsibilities are to, they have been described in your arrangement letter and a planning letter which we gave you. And that's what this is about. And our planning letter is just how we planned on performing our audit. Okay, we did not have, there were no audit adjustments made to the original trial balance that we received from finance. We are not aware of any uncorrected misstatements that were not clearly trivial. We did not have any disagreements with management. We did not have any other, I'm sorry, I have a sore throat. There was no significant errors or issues discussed with management, and there were no significant difficulties with the audit. Okay, in the very last 3 pages of this document to the Board of Directors are the performance indicators. These performance indicators are required by the LGC, and if you would have had any issues in any of that, you would have had to respond to the LGC of a plan. And those performance indicators are the first one of them is that the audit is to be expected to be submitted within 5 months plus 1 day, that's December the 1st, after the year end by the auditor. And your audit was completed before then. There were no budget findings. There were no significant deficiencies, statutory violations, or material weaknesses. The ONWASA had a board-appointed finance officer the entire year. There were no problems with debt payments being late or did not comply with the bond covenants. Okay. Unrestricted cash divided by total expenses was greater than 16%. Okay? If you'd have had any issues with that, any of those, y'all would have had to respond to the LGC, but you did not. There was no issues. Okay, this is your revenue by sources for the last 5 years. And that's the expenses by function for the last 5 years. And that's really all I have. Do y'all have any questions?
In the course of performing the audit as per your contract, you did not suffer any adverse influence from any member of the Board of Directors or the staff?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Dr. used to always ask that.
That's where I picked that up at.
I was sorry to see him just tired.
Any other questions for Ms. Murphy?
I'll make a motion to approve to accept the annual comprehensive financial report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Have any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Ms. Murphy.
Thank you very much.
We'll move on to the financial update. Ms. Tiffany Riggs.
Financial update for the first 6 months of this fiscal year. Historically, the first 6 months of the fiscal year, revenue is at its highest and expenditures are at their lowest, and then it's an inverse relationship, and then the second 6 months reverse where revenue is normally lower and expenditures are higher. And I've basically, like the last 5 years, I went back, and that's pretty much been the historical trend, probably longer than that, but I went back 5 years just to verify that we're still having that same pattern to date. We break down our revenue into 5 categories: water, sewer, service fees, administrative fees, and other fees. Water and sewer revenue accounts for over 80% of the budgeted revenue. As of December 31st, combined water and sewer revenue billed totaled almost $17.5 million, or 55% of their combined annual budgets of $31.9 million. Total revenue to date is $19.6 million, or 54% of the total budget, which is $36.4 million. We break expenditures down into 7 categories: personnel, operating, non-capital, capital, debt service, and transfers. Operating and personnel accounts for over 64% of budgeted expenditures. As of December 31st, operating and personnel expenditures totaled $10 million, or 43% of their combined annual budgets of $23 million. Expenditures to date totaled $14 million, or 39% of the total budget of the $36.4 million. Like most entities, we're experiencing increased costs, longer lead times, and the lack of availability in materials and services needed for our operations. Recently, we learned that one of our vendors, Caris, which we purchased one of our major chemicals from, potassium permanganate, suffered a major disaster with a fire at their plant. They have informed their customers that they are declaring a 90-day force majeure for the potassium permanganate supply. But after speaking with Mr. Brown, we have a 120-day supply on hand. We've placed an order, so we're hoping that the order will come in before our supply is depleted. If not, there are other vendors available, just not at the same low price we received from Caris. So for the first 6 months of the fiscal year, it appears that revenue is greater than expenditures, but based on historical data, we'll see that gap close towards the end of the year or the next 6 months, because expenditures will go up and revenue tends to go down. Any questions? Currently, we're in the process of updating our first system development fee study that we completed in 2018 and implemented in fiscal year 2019. It's required by state statute 162.8 that we update the system development fee every 5 years, so we're approaching the 5th year. We've sent data to Raftellus to update the study, and it will be presented to the board in March. At that time, we'll make it public for 45 days. Then we'll hold a public hearing before adopting or implementing the changes to the system development fees. We sent out a request for proposal for a new audit contract in December, and we posted it on the website, and we sent it to over 32 different auditing firms, and we received 1 proposal. We have sent it back out again and hope to receive more than 1 on January 31st, but we'll keep you posted and updated at the next board meeting as to hopefully the success, or don't want to say failure, but who will award the proposal to. Chemical bids. So I know you've all heard chemicals have gone up exponentially over the last few months. So we changed up a little bit the format of how we bid those out. Instead of doing it for a term of a year, we did it for 6 months. We did it the first time in July. We sent it out for a year. Didn't really like the results, so we changed up and we sent it out for 6 months. And we did that for 4 of the 5 major chemicals we use the most, which is chlorine, fluoride, orthophosphate, and potassium permanganate. And after the results of that, 3 of the 4 went down 10% and 1 went up 10%. So we're going to bid that back out again for a 6-month term, but we're also going to include up to 3 renewals instead of no renewals this time around. So we'll have the option either to renew or bid it back out after 6 months. And hopefully we'll continue to get better prices by doing shorter intervals of time, and that gives the vendors a little bit more confidence with what they're going to bid on the cost of delivering that product to us. And we'll continue to evaluate the bid process for all bids we send out to make sure that we get the best cost and services for our customers going forward. Any questions? That's all I have.
At all?
All right.
All right. Any questions? Thank you. Okay, moving on to new item C, Mr. David Moore.
before I go into my spiel, I'd like to thank the board and the CEO and Heather for helping get this on the agenda at the last minute, and appreciate your patience. The item tonight, in October 2022, ONWASA submitted letters of intent and supporting documents to the North Carolina Department of Public Safety to request construction funding for 2 separate capital improvement projects under the FEMA Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities. It's a 2022 grant cycle. It's called BRIC. The 2 projects were a priority aerial crossing replacement. We've identified 12 locations in the water distribution system where a significant failure would cause a major outage. So we're looking for funding to correct those by replacing them with horizontal directional drilled underground crossings. The second one is the Mount Pleasant Road Pump Station relocation. It's construction of a new wastewater pumping station in the Swansboro collection area. The existing unit is along Mount Pleasant Road, and it's right on the edge of a stream, and it's being affected by erosion. In the event of a failure, it would discharge right into the White Oak River. So we're looking at moving it away from the stream. Both projects were subsequently selected to submit a full application. It's kind of a 3-step process, and to be considered for funding. Final applications are due by 5:00 p.m. on Friday, January 20th, tomorrow. The attached local match fund commitment letter is a standard form document required by Department of Public Safety for each project. And while it was originally conveyed that would be due in March, and we were going to come at the March meeting, they told us this week that it has to be attached to what goes out tomorrow. So we had to kind of scramble on it. While the number of projects being considered from North Carolina is fairly large, they've told us there's 44 projects in the running, and our experience with the BRIC program itself is limited. We're requesting Board of Directors approval to authorize the CEO to sign the letter and send it in, and we'll submit the applications then tomorrow. Everything else has been prepared and ready to go. The action I'm requesting this evening is consider a motion to approve the Chief Executive Officer to sign the local fund match commitment letters and submit the BRIC 2022 grant applications for consideration. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So, do we need to do that?
Well, let's get a motion in a second, we'll discuss.
So moved.
Second? Anybody? Okay. You got a second?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Pat.
I just have a question, since I'm 2 houses from the Mount Pleasant station, where is it moving to?
It's the other side of the stream. There's a vacant wooded property there.
Yeah,
We've
there
had
is.
survey done. We have an easement for the pump station that extends over there, not all the way. We'll have to acquire some property, but right next to the road, there's a section of land that's above the floodplain and would be far enough away from the stream, we wouldn't have to worry about it.
So is it close to that pond?
No, it's on the other side of the road from the pond. It's on the same, the pump station's
On the
right-
same side as the pump
Right,
station?
yes.
So there's like a mobile home back in the woods in there?
Right,
Nobody lives there, it's
right.
just wondering where it was going.
Yeah, it's very close to the existing, but it's out of the floodplain.
Okay, thank you.
So we've been working on stream crossings for several years. How close does this get us to having them all?
We started out with roughly 50. We've done probably half a dozen right now. So this 12 gets us further along. We actually approached this program in 2019 to do them all, and it didn't get very well received. We didn't make it past the first step, but for some reason this time around it seems more, like I said, the state has recommended we submit and be considered. So we, to finish on that, we're doing those whenever we do a project in the vicinity. The perfect example, we're going to be doing some water line improvements near the Hubert Water Plant, and we're actually going to address either 2 or 3 aerial crossings when we do that project. So we're trying to cross them off one way or another.
Any other discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Mr. Moore. And then our next is public comment. Do we have anybody for public comment? There's nobody signed up for public comment, so I'll ask our CEO, Mr. Frankie Howard, for your comment, sir.
Thank you, Chairman and Board of Directors. Just a few things to update. First of all, thank you to my team, my staff for being here, particularly Tiffany for her update and David for working on that grant. I know he's got a lot of things going on, so I throw him some other work to do as well, like these grants, and he does it with stride. So we appreciate that, and fingers crossed it's successful. If not, we'll get some good feedback. Just a couple of things to highlight this. You've seen most of this in your reports, but just for the public's sake and anyone watching us on TV, we saw a pretty significant growth in 2022. We were averaging about, I think, 147 new taps per month, which give us over 1,700 new connections or accounts into our system. So that's pretty significant, and I think it's above any historical averages we've had. So I think what I'm told by staff is we typically average about 100 or less per month, and we're seeing almost double that. So what that does on our water production side, and you've seen this as well, is we were up 4% year over year on our last water production numbers. That's actually under the average number for the last 5 years, which was 5.4% per year. Breaking that down a little further, the Dixon plant, which represents the Holly Ridge, Sneeze Ferry area, saw a 12% increase in water production. So it kind of goes along with what we're seeing in growth down there, which sort of highlights the fact that we are doing what we can to expand capacity, look at new well sites, and increase our water production for that area and to match that growth. I wanted to point out we got several capital projects that are moving right along. You guys got an update at the last meeting. I'll get you a comprehensive update in one of your next board updates for me, but just know that they hit the ground running in 2023, so we haven't lost any time, and many projects will probably go out for permit this year and hopefully bid and construction as we get further along. A couple of things too, the strategic plan is due to be updated this year, so be on the lookout. We'll be sending out board surveys as you did last time, staff surveys, and the whole process. So we're hoping to update the strategic plan before the end of the year. We took a couple tracts of timber to bid for the thinning. Those came back this week, so we'll be making a recommendation to award that, get proper signatures, but it looks like we'll possibly generate upwards to around another $100,000 in timber thinning sales. This type of bid was done on the tonnage versus the clear cut like we did for the Wachovia tract. So we have an area in the Northwest plant and another area at the Wachovia tract. Wanted to touch on the Duke rolling outages while I had your attention. I just wanted you to know that we have made contact with our connection, or our contact at Duke, because we did have facilities that were impacted by that in the Swansboro area. It actually resulted in some unfortunate necessary staff out on-call events. But what we're doing with Duke and our contact is ensuring that our facilities are on their list of critical infrastructure and perhaps avoid any type of unnecessary outage. We know they had a lot going on. I've seen the reports from Duke. I think the commissioners have gotten some feedback from Duke. But I just wanted you to know that we're also on the cusp of that and working with them to make sure our facilities are properly covered. So speaking of that, there's a legislative function, I think next week. I'm looking into more information on that. I think Duke actually is one of the sponsors for that. I had a county commissioner telling me about it. It's in Kinston next week. So I try to attend that if I can get more information. But along that same line, I'd like to line something up in the coming weeks to attend a visit to Raleigh and meet with our legislators, just to kind of keep things on their horizon when it comes to our needs. I know we have a good working relationship. We got the grant through last year's budget, thanks to our legislators. So I may coordinate that as well with other utility authorities, because we a lot of times have common needs and goals with the legislators. I did a presentation to our local Rotary Club here in Jacksonville. I sent that copy to you all, just reminding you that if you have respective boards that you'd like me to do presentations to or other civic organizations, I'd gladly do that to give them an update on the things that are happening here at ONWASA. Just wanted to close with thanking our partners, particularly the City of Jacksonville. They're allowing us to continue to use this facility to have our meetings, and they're always a good working partner with projects that we have ongoing where our facilities cross paths. So with that, that is my update, board, unless you got questions for me.
Questions?
Facilities that the outage impacted, are there generators down there for those, or is that something you cannot use with that?
Most of them would have, this particular situation was sort of like all the stars aligned, like the primary generator didn't work, the backup generator didn't work, and the particular vehicle we had to go take care of the lift station didn't actually work either. So, but we got some of that sort of in repairs or lined up. I think one of the issues was parts, but from the report and the way I understand it, we had just cranked the backup generator a day before this happened, so we're not sure if the temperature had something to do with it or what was going on, but the backup generator didn't work either. So yeah, hopefully, the generators, would help us shield from some of that. And as a matter of fact, one of my recommendations to the Duke individual was, perhaps identifying properties that do have generators, choose those for rolling outages first, maybe then individuals that don't have generators. So, we could possibly be one of those partners that, we got the capability to turn our generators on to shed some load to help Duke. We'd gladly talk to them about that situation as long as we can handle it. So,
Right.
Yes, sir.
Anything else for the CEO? All right, Director Warden, do you have any comments?
No, congratulations, Tiffany and your staff for a clean opinion. It doesn't happen by accident, as you know, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Director Foster.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's always good to get those audits out of the way. I know those are stressful times waiting, but you've done it for years now, so shouldn't be much worry on your part. Thank you.
Director Bender?
No comments, no report.
Okay. No? Secretary Treasurer Turner?
Thank you, Tiffany, for all your hard work. That, like everyone said, it does not come just by accident. You work hard on this all year round. And Happy New Year to everyone. Hope we have a great year.
Vice Chairman Connor?
Thank you guys as usual. And thank you, Mr. Bittner, for leading us so well these years, and just appreciate it, man. Been
Thank
fun
you.
sitting next to you,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you. And I too wanted to thank Mr. Bittner. He's been chairman for several years, and we appreciate your service to ONWASA for years before that, I think. And thank you, directors, for your confidence in me. I'm, again, looking forward to working with Mr. Howard and with this great staff to move Onslow County forward and to take us into the future. I think we got great times ahead. We just have to be prepared for it. I'm very interested in the next, sometime in the next year, trying to get Onslow County to put together a strategic growth plan and have some kind of a conference and with ONWASA and with our utilities and other cities and municipalities to talk about the growth in Onslow County. I see places in Onslow County where we're growing and we don't have water and sewer infrastructure, and other places where we're growing and we don't have transportation infrastructure. And I think we need to get our heads together on some of these things and try to figure out where we want to grow and make sure that we have the infrastructure available in the areas where we want to grow. So I'm hoping we can put that together sometime in the next year. And since we're doing a strategic plan for ONWASA, also, it's a good time to make sure that what we're planning to do here is in line with what's happening in the rest of the county. It's not going to do us any good to extend utility lines if there's no electric service. So Yeah, we need to get together on this thing. Looking forward to a great year. I appreciate everybody being here, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Anybody want to go home?
Second.
All right, we're adjourned. Let me hit this thing.